Bonjour. Good morning. I'm a bit late this morning, and I haven't recorded for a while because my voice has been a bit gravelly. I've had a cough, which I think I said in a previous video has all sorts of reactions. However, myself, I feel very well, but I'm getting a bit gravelly now. And it's also a test because I'm scheduled to do a webinar later this week. And it's a question of how long will my voice hold out for. So my question to you first this morning is, how did you get out of bed this morning? And I presuppose you've got out of bed. I was very tempted to stay in for quite a while this morning, and yet it's a beautiful day. So it's the way, so for example, what I mean by that is like, I think I was paying attention to how I got out of bed this morning. I sort of throw the covers back, swing two legs out, and kind of get up from there. I'm very conscious of getting up. I've learned a lot through Feldenkrais, which is the awareness through movement that I've studied for years, about how we move and how we get up particularly is very significant. We tend not to use our bodies in the most efficient way. And getting up is significant because our head is the heaviest part of our body. So the strain that we can put on neck and shoulders if we're getting up incorrectly is quite huge. Anyway, so I got up. Now the question is the way that you got up this morning, is it the way that you got up yesterday morning? Is it the same as the way that you get up every morning? And I suspect that for most people, the answer is, well, it's the same, because we develop habits. We don't think about those habits. We just do what is familiar, whether that's the best choice from the point of view of our health or not. And so it's interesting to what extent we keep habits. I've still got habits that were true and important for me when I had a schedule of work, when I was traveling, needed to get out to be at a meeting or to catch a flight, and I still have that, I must get up, there must be something on. And I realize in this lockdown I don't have to. Actually, I could sleep and wake and get up whenever I choose. But it's kind of wired into me to do it at certain times. I was listening to a friend of mine saying she was concerned that her teenage daughter was sleeping in late, and she felt like she should get up. Interesting how often when children are very small, we want them to sleep to get some kind of break in the day. As they get older, we want them to get up because they shouldn't be sleeping in the daytime. And does it matter anymore? So the question is what habits are useful to maintain, and what new habits can we be developing? How can we challenge the habits that we have? But in particular, the thing is to be aware, to be testing. And I'm intrigued by some advertisements I've seen on the television where they're advertising, for example, it was not so much an advert, but it's a quiz that's part of one of the weekly programs, where the prize on offer is a cruise holiday, or I think it might be a car, but the cruise is the main one. And you think about the number of cruises, well, all travel like that has stopped, and so many cruises where the centers of a virus outbreak, and how inappropriate it is to be offering that as a prize today. And there's quite a number of advertisements. You think, why would they be advertising that in these conditions? It's so totally insensitive and inappropriate. And so the tendency is to stick to something that's pre-decided. I mean, there may be all sorts of other reasons why they can't change, but it's still the same issue. how we tend to stick to things that are pre-decided without having the system or the personal flexibility to be able to change. You know, I remember in particular, that's an example I've quoted and talked about a number of times on a course, when I was doing a bike tour in France and arrived at a venue exhausted at the end of the day, having cycled quite a distance, really just wanting to get to my room and have a shower and lay down. And the receptionist said, "Let me show you around the hotel." And I said, "No, really, I don't really want to see around the hotel." They said, "Well, let me show you. We've got a great gym and sports facilities." And it was apparent, the bike was outside. I was in my cycling gear. And it's like, that's the last thing I needed and wanted. But they were programmed to take visitors, arriving guests, through the introductory routine, whether it was appropriate or not. And that happens a lot. It may be that somebody's in conversation and they've started saying something, and actually the audience, the people, have lost interest in that, and they haven't sensed that, and they continue until they finish. So flexibility in our mind, our body, our actions is so important in being able to achieve our goals. And there's a framework in NLP, which some of you will know who've done the training. It's called the TOTE: test, operate, test, exit. So we enter into a TOTE. Something may trigger it when perhaps something's happening that's not quite in line with our outcomes, or we have an outcome that we haven't achieved yet. And so we test. Does our present state match our desired state? And if not, if we are living our life in a healthy way, we will act on that in order to bring the present state either in line with the desired state or closer to it. This kind of classic expression is that if we keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, that's a sign of madness. In some cases, trying things out a number of times may be important, but generally, if something doesn't work, it's like, can we take that feedback and then try something else? That's really what successful people do, is that they keep trying different things until they find what works, unless they decide, okay, enough's enough. But they will persist with trying different things way beyond the number of attempts that an average person would try. And so it's just interesting looking at things in the news as to what extent are people sticking with things that were predetermined, even though they may no longer be appropriate. And how do we flex so that we have many different ways of trying things out, of operating, so that we can bring our present state in line with our desired state. Now, to be able to do that, it's really important to believe that there's no failure. It's all learning. If something doesn't work out and you go, well, that's it, didn't work, abandon that, then you're not going to persist. So there's accompanying beliefs that are very important. So flexibility is really significant, really important. And this is an opportunity to challenge habits that we've built up over time. This lockdown that many people are experiencing, in a way, is a confinement, but it's also a space. It's a space that's free of the usual constraints, to be able to explore what habits and what we wish to develop for ourselves now that can really serve us in the future. So TOTE is test, operate, test, exit. So you exit a particular TOTE when the present state matches your desired state. And then off we go on another TOTE. And there'll be all sorts of TOTEs running very naturally in our lives. Some in unhealthy ways, like people continuing to do the same thing, or perhaps people not being very clear about what the exit looks and sounds and feels like. So they don't know when they've got there, they keep going. So flexibility is the key. And given another belief in LP that mind and body are one. So flexible body, flexible mind, flexible mind, flexible body. So the question to you is, how are you going to get out of bed tomorrow?